Hey, I'm Robin.
And I'm Dana.
This is the Robin and Dana Talk Real Show. Today we are going to talk about wisdom,
About that.
Ecclesiastes. And it is, I mean, when I was sharing this with Dana off the air, she goes, "Oh my goodness, I am living Ecclesiastes." There's been so many things that we've discussed in the past couple of weeks about just things that we've been pondering. And you brought up a good point. We've just gone through the political cycle of the elections, and there's thoughtfulness that has to come from the Christian brother or sister and you used the word lament, which I thought was a good one. So just go into that. What do you mean by that? And let's go for it.
Yeah, well, sometimes we're disappointed in life, and Ecclesiastes is a really good lamentation for me. I mean, lamentations are good lamentations for me.
Yeah.
But I'm not feeling weepy and sad. I'm not lament. Let's go to Jeremiah and just have a good cry. Let's go to Ecclesiastes and lament and learn. Because
Yeah.
this is the thing that the author of Ecclesiastes, which I just in my head go, okay, this is Solomon.
Mhm.
It's just Solomon. Even though we don't know that. But yeah, so I want wisdom. What just happened? What just happened? And what can we gain from this? And one of those good old Lord, what in the world are you doing here kind of things, which is what Ecclesiastes is all about. Lord, what are you doing and what are you teaching me? And I mean, surely Ecclesiastes has got experiential knowledge under the tool belt here. I mean, yeah, it's just or in the tool belt or whatever, however that phrase goes. Because every line, now that I'm 61, yeah, and I am like, wow, I just lived that, and that's what I learned. Oh my gosh, I just learned that the other day, and that is so true. So anyway, I'm
I,
looking forward to what you've discovered.
well, as I was reading through, and very often I'll be listening to it, like when I get ready in the morning, I'll be listening to the scriptures. And so but it caught my ear was chapter 3, starting at verse 14. And it says, "And I know that whatever God does is final." And it says, "Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear him. And what is happening now has happened before, and what will happen in the future has happened before, because God makes the same things happen over and over again." And then he goes on to say, "I also notice that under the sun there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even in the courts of law are corrupt. I said to myself, in due season, God will judge everyone, both good and bad, for all their deeds." What do we always say?
About
We
that?
always say there's nothing new under the sun. Well, it came from Ecclesiastes, basically.
Yeah.
It's God, this is nothing new, people. This is human. This is the human experience, if you will.
Yeah. And God's going to deal with it. I mean, if you back up just a little bit, there's a season for everything.
Yes.
Yeah, and we go through all of these different seasons, but as I was reading this morning, I was like, and who's the creator of time? It says there's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, a time to kill, a time to break down, a time to weep, a time to mourn, a time to cast away, a time, a time, a time, a time, a time. And I was like, and
Season.
God is the creator of time, and he functions within time, and he's got a time for everything and a reason for the times. There's a
Yes.
purpose for the times.
Yeah.
And so while I get frustrated, because I was thinking about this, when
Mhm.
I get frustrated about God's timeliness, I think one of the things that I've learned over the last, few decades actually is
Mhm.
God shows up right on time for each and every one of us. He knows us, that we have this threshold of learning,
Mhm.
right? And so for me, it's patience. That's what I'm learning here.
Road experience.
So how long do I have to wait in time for God to show up? He will show up for me at the very last second.
Yeah.
every time because I am a pusher. I just like
I want to get it
push.
done.
I push time. Time will work for me. I push it. And God's like, look, you're going to have to learn this. You're going to have to learn it that you work on my time. I am the creator of time. And I love this because I was feeling again in this election cycle. It's our time. It's our time. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
it's
Well, it
time
is
for the
our time.
church to rise.
It is our time for the church to rise. It has
Look at
been our
that.
time for the church to rise.
Look at
And
that.
was that?
No, I was like, look at that, because you
Yeah,
came
was
to the
that?
same conclusion that I did, and we haven't even talked about this.
Yeah, that's true. We hadn't.
What is best for the church? What has made the church come to life and realize who it is? What is raising up people in the church in the last couple of years?
Persecution, persecution, realization of things that we've been lied to for hundreds of years. Actually, let's just go to listen. The liar came in a long time ago, so we have been lied to. We have, in many cases, struck a deal with the enemy,
Yeah,
and the churches have done it. The leaders of the churches have done it. And I'm just going to talk about, I'm just addressing the church. That's who we are. We're individuals that carry the dwelling place of the mighty God of Israel in us, the hope of glory. And we've got to know something, that when he shows us something, that we can't go back there anymore. We have to move forward. We have a responsibility, as Dana said at the very beginning, we have a responsibility of how are we going to respond to the things of this world. And and we already know that whatever happened has happened before, and
yeah,
whatever will happen in the future, it's not so much that it's going to do all of those things. It's how are we
right,
going to respond to them? And you
right.
said that just so well off the air too.
Ah, you're kind, but yeah. So we go through these different things of, what is your calling and what is your purpose,
Oh,
and our
girl.
calling and our purpose has never changed. We are to bring the gospel of Jesus. We are to be the image bearers of Jesus to everyone around us. What does that look like? It's different for all of us.
Yeah.
The gospel message is no different, but how now shall we live is different for all of us. We
Yeah.
should live a sinless life. Are we still sinners wrestling with human flesh?
Yes.
Paul says, yes, 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 we are. But we're wrestling with it. We're not giving into it. We're wrestling with it. And because we want to be accurate image bearers.
Yes.
So this is the thing. I mean, what motivates us to
Mhm.
be image bearers best?
Yeah. So interesting that you should say that, because you shared with me something this morning. We won't go into who it was who was saying all these things, because there's a lot of these authors that are preachers that have become these amazing authors, and they're like, they write 100 books a year. I don't know how they do it.
For 1995, I too can tell you.
Exactly. So we've become mediums, if you will, in the world of teleevangelism. But anyway, it says in chapter 6 of Ecclesiastes, enjoy what you have rather than desiring what you don't have. Just dreaming about nice things is meaningless, like chasing the wind. And then it goes into everything has already been decided. Now listen to this. It was known long ago what each person would be.
Yeah,
So there's no use arguing with God about your destiny.
thank you.
The more words you speak, the less you mean. So what good are they? In the few days of our meaningless lives, who knows how our days can best be spent? Our lives are like a shadow. Who can tell what will happen on this earth after we are gone? Destiny. So you hear this word constantly, constantly. If you do these things, this will help your destiny, or you to find your destiny. This and this and this and this and this. Chop, 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 chop. Sorry.
No, it's true. It's true. Let me help you find your destiny. Wait, are you the one? Are you the intermediary that I'm supposed to go to determine what my destiny is? And and it's not as if you can even determine it.
Mhm.
You're just looking for someone to reveal it to you. Do I look to the words of man to reveal my destiny to me?
Mhm.
I don't think so.
Mhm.
I don't think so. I look to the God above, and he gave clear instructions. As a child of God, you are to bear my image.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
we're
I mean, tell people about
That's
me.
such a good word. That is
I
that
mean, yeah.
yeah.
So my other thing is too, on this trusting of man to reveal to me things, right? So you and I have talked about this a lot too. In chapter 4, Ecclesiastes, then I saw all toil and all skill in work come from man's envy
Yes. Thank
of
you.
his neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. Envy people.
Envy, I don't mean to be screaming, because apparently screaming is a thing now, but
We
I'm not
don't want screamers. We're not screamers.
I'm
We're
not screamers. I am just so excited that it's here, because I was like, I felt like I had just made this great discovery and all I had to do was read the book of Ecclesiastes.
yeah, well, wisdom comes from God, right? So if you're his child, and you are seeking and you're searching his word, you will surely find him. And you are one of those people that I look at Ecclesiastes and I think of Dana, because she's a ponderer. She's a researcher. I think about these things and they're all meaningless. Well, I think about these things. But when she brought up the other day, and this was our just us talking to each other, and she goes, the what motivates people to be successful is envy. And I went, yeah, that's powerful. And there it is, right there in
There it is right there. I
Ecclesiastes
should have just read it and gotten on with life.
4:4. Yeah, verse 4:4, it says, then I observe that most people are motivated to success because they envy their neighbors. But this too is meaningless, like chasing the wind.
Like
And
chasing the wind. I love that. I mean,
yeah,
how many of us are chasing the wind? Going through probate is a big thing about chasing the wind. I mean, I feel like I've been chasing the wind. I'm like, God, stop the wind. Stop the wind. I'm tired of chasing the wind. And I don't know. I don't know about
storm,
all of you.
right?
The things that we do every day. This was my thing for today when I read this.
Mhm.
Are we chasing wind, and how futile does it feel to know that you're chasing wind?
Yeah. When you're seeing what's going on in the world, and you do all these little researches and you're going off and tangents and little rabbit holes and going down those rabbit holes, and um, I look at it as parallel to the scriptures. Okay, Lord, let me balance that with what you say.
Yeah,
Let me balance this with what you say. And I've got to tell you, this whole these passages of scripture, like what I'm about to read here, you talked about envy, because oh my gosh, the wicked. It says, it is better to be poor but wise youth, an old and foolish king who refuses all advice. Such a youth could rise from poverty and succeed. He might even become king, though he has been in prison. But then everyone rushes to the side of yet another youth. And he's talking about political people.
yeah,
Have
he
you
is.
not seen this happen right now? It's this, it's this thing where everybody's pushing aside somebody else, and they're going running after, we're all going to crowd around them. But to me, that's wicked.
Yeah,
It's wickedness. It's like they're all going to hover around those that seem to be the ones powerful, or the ones that they've set up to be powerful.
yeah.
That is much truer.
Wind chasing, wind. They're wind chasers, because we're all looking for a human to save us. We're
Yeah,
all looking for a man-made institution to save us. And I say we all, I mean,
I
like
say it too. Yeah,
the world,
absolutely.
in general. Unless you're a believer in Jesus and you have been transformed by the renewing of your mind, and you're like, look, I know what my called purpose is. It is to lay up my stores in heaven, because everything else is going to be burned up. It's going to be trash. It is like chasing wind. I don't know how many dumpster loads. I mean, if I need experiential knowledge, which I am an experiential
Yes,
knowledge
you are.
person, how many dumpster loads have I taken and thought, I paid blah for that. I paid blah for that. I paid blah
Tons.
for that. And I'm throwing it in a dumpster and I'm taking it down to the dump and I'm paying once again to get
Yeah.
rid of what I paid for. And I'm like, there is nothing more proof giving. I
Yeah.
use a different word, but I mean, this gives me proof that all of Ecclesiastes is wisdom that we need to learn from.
Yeah.
Lay up your treasures in
Yeah.
heaven,
Yeah.
right? I mean, get out there and start bringing people to Jesus.
Mhm.
Dedicate everything that you have to that purpose. Like my barn is going to be a gathering place so that we can evangelize. My house is going to be a gathering place so that we can
Fellowship.
meet the needs of the community,
Mhm.
right? I mean, all of this, whatever I have, is going to meet the needs of the believing community, because this is what it means to have the poor among you. You will have poor brethren among you. You cannot save the poor of the world.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be a light to the world because of our love for each other, right? The community of believers. Oh my gosh. And then, I mean,
Can I just share, interject
yes,
here because you brought up the poor? You know, there was a guy in Bernie, Texas, and he would always set up on the corner, uh,
Sam,
Sammy,
he was
and
real.
which was not his real name, by the way. He did tell me his real name. But anyway, he had a son and daughter, and I'm sure that they tried to bring him in. Harry and I went, and it was going to get really, really cold, and
Yeah,
he had set up his little pup tent like he always did in that corner. And we brought him some sweaters and just to try and stay warm. But Harry knew that it was going to be an ice storm, and he wanted Sam to stay in the hotel just right across the street. And he didn't want to. In other words, here's a guy who does not know the Lord, and he's refusing.
right,
And you could try and carry him. It's like the many homeless that refuse because they don't know the Lord, but there are many among us who within our own church bodies or who are going hungry, and you don't probably know about it unless they quietly tell somebody or unless we know them.
right.
And
And there's
that's
the
the
key.
other issue, right?
That's the key. That's the key. We have got to get to know each other.
That is
And I know we bash, it's just because of pride that no one knows your need. I mean, I get that, but sometimes you need to be visualized as the person of safety,
Mhm.
that I can confide my needs in you. I know I don't tell everybody what's going on in my life, but I tell Robin, because she's my person of safety. I feel safe with her, and
Back at her.
I know that I can trust her. There are other people, that I feel somewhat safe with and that I can trust and tell my needs to as well. Um,
Mhm.
but we need to be that for people. We need to start being vulnerable. We
Mhm.
need to I'm going to cry, but we really need to be the body of Jesus to each other.
Something I did that I hadn't done before, and I won't share what it was, but just heard from him, by the way.
Yeah.
He just texted me. But I I wrote this down, and I have to be honest, it's really hard for me to do prayer requests. For me personally, I'll just be pretty generic. But on this one night, God wanted me to be specific.
Yeah.
And so whoever got my prayer request, I very grateful. And I put my name. That was the other thing. So I was extra vulnerable. I didn't just put the prayer request, but I put my name down and my telephone number.
Yeah.
And that next morning, it spurred me to do what the prayer request was on there. And it was very cool because when we're vulnerable like that, when we are willing to trust God first, it's really trusting God to do what he says he will do. And it even says in Ecclesiastes, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. Someone who falls alone is in real trouble. So likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defected and defeated and defected. But two can stand back to back and conquer.
Yeah.
That I loved. That's you and me.
Yeah.
That when we've been in Israel and we've had people like, okay, back to back would be a good example of Dana knew something about a t-shirt that this one guy wore at a dig. And we were a small group at the time, and it says, "Got Jesus." And it was basically mocking Christians, is why he wore the t-shirt. Well, I didn't know that. And back to back, she was like my back standing up when I said, "Oh, wow, that's a cool t-shirt." And he goes, and then she shared with me so that I wouldn't be a fool about it, is that she said, "He doesn't really mean it." In other
Yeah.
words, we're there for each other. There's another example of that too, when I was wearing
which
certain
is
clothing.
which is funny, I have this in my head where angels fear to tread. Dana just storms right in.
True enough, true enough. We have this desire to think well of a situation. She does too, but sometimes we're used for each other. Uh, and you have friends out there too that you're used for each other, whether it's you and
Yeah.
your husband, whether it's you and another friend, you and your mother, dad, whatever that is, that you are those kind of armor bearers. You
Yeah.
kind of back each other up. And it's so
Yeah.
important to have that in your life. Please, please, I pray, if you don't have that, if you are so, and I'm going to use the word pride because I suffered from it growing up. I had a lot of pride in my life. Um, it will, it won't, it'll stop you from having those vulnerable relationships that help us grow. It is because I was willing to be vulnerable with Dana about a lot of things in my own personal life, in my even day to day, that it teaches us that you can trust the Lord in that person.
Right.
They are confidants. They will pray for you.
Right.
And I've seen the results of those prayers. And I
Right.
just,
Well, and the perfect example of that too is Jesus sent the disciples out two by two. I mean,
yeah,
there's a reason for that.
yeah.
That you won't just be lost and alone out there. There'll be someone out there who knows that you've gone missing, or knows that something's wrong, or can help and support you, or just whatever. There's power in two. There's great power in three.
Mhm.
The three-strand cord is just unbreakable. So anyway, I,
The
I
other thing, the other thing that he mentions in here is you have, you're toiling, you're working, enjoy it.
yeah,
Enjoy the results of that work, enjoy the fruits of that work. And we don't. I see people toiling and toiling like that is their purpose in life.
yeah.
And he says that our purpose is to fear him. And he's, because he's the one who provides all of this.
It's interesting, my pondering the other day with the guys, because my house is full of guys,
Yep.
um, was the fact that for 60, 70 years, whatever the survey was, you work you work to save up enough money to enjoy the possibility of 9 more years. I mean, I was just quoting the stats. I was like, isn't that interesting? I mean, why wouldn't you just enjoy life all along the way? Because you never know what tomorrow brings. I mean, why
That's
not? I guess what I keep telling myself is, why not embrace the truth of God's word? Does he not tell us all these things?
right.
Your tomorrow is never guaranteed.
Right.
So why would you work your whole life to save up in anticipation of something that may never happen? And then you're in Ecclesiastes again, giving your life away to someone else, and you don't have any idea how they're going to invest that life that you which is your life.
The
The
anxiety of it too.
Yeah, and the other unique thing that I want to point out about Ecclesiastes, which I've encouraged everyone, and I really, really, really want to encourage all of you out there, like the Margos of the world who are writers. Judith Rivers is a writer.
Yes.
Lisa Hawkins is a writer.
Lisa,
All these,
Dr. Lisa. Yeah.
yeah, all these different people who are writers. The interesting thing is Ecclesiastes is saying all my wisdom is going to be in vain. And look, we're reading it. It's not in vain. I mean,
Right.
because we're reading it. The wisdom of God is not in vain because we're sitting here reading it. And I just pray that we all write. This is a, people ask me and I never really answer, what motivated you to write? It's wisdom that's motivating me to write
Mhm.
because I want to convey things that I've learned over life and put them in writing so that they can last. And I
Mm.
just think I want to encourage everyone. Robin writes. She's a songwriter, right? Right? She's not a song singer. She's a songwriter,
Mhm.
because her wisdom will last. So I just want to encourage you with that to not only read Ecclesiastes and compare the wisdom of your life with the wisdom that Ecclesiastes has gained, but also to write your wisdom, write what you've discovered.
That's so good. The other word that is often taken out of context is the word prosper. Well, there's two words, prosper and inheritance.
Yes.
And she just basically spoke to that. What are we leaving our children? Are we leaving them with money that they don't know what to do with, that they could care less about and just spend away? Or are we leaving them with the wisdom
Yeah.
in how to take care of things, in how to use those things for the glory of God? And what are we prospering in? We're really prospering in the knowledge and the hope and the wisdom of God and understanding. And so those things are so important because that does help us to succeed in whatever God gives us to succeed in. Whether it's succeeding in raising your children, whether it's succeeding in being the best at our job, whatever that is, uh, success is not a monetary thing.
Right. Right.
It is a
And
fruit
so many people will read that into the text, that you leave a legacy of success. So,
because
and you're like, oh, I need to leave an inheritance to my children,
mhm,
which means assets, some kind of
asset
financial prosperity, which it can mean.
can
It
mean.
can mean that, but that is not all inclusive of what you leave to your children and your grandchildren. To that point, again, experiential knowledge. So I found a letter that my granddad wrote to me,
Hmm.
like when I was tiny.
Mhm.
It's handwritten in his, and so I told all the kids, hey, I found this letter, in handwritten from your great granddad. And Jordan said that is the greatest treasure of all.
Wow,
I agree.
I agree. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Well, I just and Dana just realized that, Ecclesiastes is so important. Let us
We
ponder
have
the things
we
of God,
agree.
of heaven, and the experiences that we have gone through are important, and they're important to us personally, but they are also maybe things we need to share as it relates to God's word. And it's an opportunity that we have to do that. So, any final words?
No, I just hope that everybody reads Ecclesiastes. They'll just jump in with their experiences and how Ecclesiastes has spoken to them, because I was surprised. It's not one of my go-to books. Reading the Bible through, of course, I'll get there, but it's a great one for today. I really think, sometimes we get a little bit verklempt on where we're headed and why we're headed in this direction as a nation and as a people and as a church and a body of believers. And Ecclesiastes is a great place to land for the next few days.
Remember, only Jesus saves.
Only Jesus
So,
lives.
I'm Robin, and
I'm Dana.
this has been the Robin and Dana Talk Real Show. You have a blessed day today. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.